Wine looked away, the sting of truth cutting deeper than she wanted to admit. Why hadn't she changed it? She had told herself countless times she would, but each time she would fill out paperwork she passed. Something inside her had resisted because deep down she knew Jungkook was the one person she could trust to show up, always, and now here he was. The silence stretched heavy and awkward until Maya finally exhaled sharply. Fine, whatever. You are here, but don't think this changes anything. She grabbed her tote bag and yanked out a water bottle, pressing it to Wine's hands. Drink, Solo. Wine obeyed, her hands trembling slightly. Jungkook sat quietly watching the exchange, a muscle ticking his jaw. The hours passed slowly. Doctors came and went, checking her with vitals, asking questions to ensure her memory was intact. Jungkook stayed, Maya stayed too, though her disapproval was palpable, radiating every time Jungkook shifted in his chair. At one point, when Maya left to grab coffee, Jungkook leaned forward. She hates me. Wine's lips twitched. She is protective. She is right to be, he admitted, surprising her. His gaze was steady and flinching. I hurt you, I know that. Her breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to brush past it, but the memories came rushing back, the fights, the loneliness, the feeling of being unseen, and yet also the laughter, the warmth, the love that had once filled her life so completely. She swallowed hard, Jungkook. But before she could finish, Maya returned, breaking the moment. That night, after visiting hours ended, Maya finally left with a promise to return in the morning. The room grew quiet again, the dim glow of the monitor the only light. Jungkook remained. Wine turned her head toward him, her voice barely above a whisper. You really don't have to stay. His eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. I know, but I want to. Something in her chest cracked open at that. She closed her eyes, pretending to sleep, because she didn't know what else to do. But long after she drifted into restless dreams, Jungkook stayed exactly where he was, keeping watch over the woman he had once loved and maybe never stopped loving. Discharge papers were always a blur of medical jargon and clip instructions, and for Wine, they might as well have been written in another language. Her head still pounded, and the bruises that mottled her ribs made even the smallest movements a careful calculation. The nurse walked her through the list anyway: pain medication every 6 hours, rest, avoid strenuous activity, follow up in 1 week. Wine nodded at all the right places, but her eyes glazed over. It was Jungkook who leaned forward, listening intently, asking clarifying questions. Any specific warning signs I should look for with the concussion? Should she be waking up every few hours tonight? Are there mobility restrictions we need to watch out for? We. The word caught Wine off guard, sending a ripple of something warm and unwanted through her chest. She opened her mouth to object, to remind him that he didn't need to be involved, but the nurse answered first. No waking every hour unless she shows signs of worsening confusion, the nurse replied, and yes, limited activity for at least a week. Someone should stay nearby for the first few days. Her gaze lied to Wine, with the kind of look nurses gave when they knew their patients were stubborn. Don't try to do this alone. Wine forced a small smile. I will manage. The nurse's eyebrows rose slightly as if she knew better, but she didn't argue. She left them with a packet of papers and instruction to stop at the pharmacy on the way out. Jungkook stood. I will get the car. I can call a cab, she muttered automatically. You are not taking a cab home? From the hospital, he said, his tone leaving no room for debate. He grabbed her overnight bag before she could protest further. Maya had offered to take her home, of course, but she had a shift at the bakery and promised to stop by later. And the wine wanted to argue, wanted to assert her independence. The truth was, she didn't have the strength, not right now, so she let him help. The world outside the hospital seemed too bright, too alive, as Jungkook guided her carefully towards his car. The rain had cleared overnight, leaving the sheets slick and shimmering under the morning sun. She squinted against the light, her body heavy and her mind foggy. Jungkook opened the passenger door for her. Careful, watch your head. The small, familiar gesture tugged at something inside her. She slid into the seat, inhaling the faint scent of leather and cedar that clung to his car. Memories hit her unbidden. Late night drives with music blaring, his hand resting casually on her knee, the way they used to argue about playlists but always ended up singing together anyway. She pushed the thoughts away as he closed the door and rounded the hood. The drive was quiet. Jungkook kept glancing at her as if to make sure she was still breathing, still upright. She stared out of the window, the city blurring past. Her body ached with every bump in the road, but it wasn't just her body. Her chest ached too with confusion, with memories, with the sharp reminder of how easily he still fit into the empty spaces of her life. When they pulled up outside her apartment building, Jungkook parked and turned to her. Wait here, I will help you out. I'm not an invalid, she grumbled, though she knew she probably looked like one. He smirked faintly. Try telling that to the way you are wincing every time you breathe. She shot him a glare, but it softened when he opened her door and offered his arm. Stubbornness varied with practicality. In the end, practicality won. She slid her hand into the crook of his elbow, allowing him to steady her as they climbed the stairs. Inside, her apartment greeted her with its usual clutter. A stack of unopened mail on the counter, shoes kicked haphazardly by the door, a throw blanket still crumpled on the couch from the last night she had sat there watching TV. It looked the same, but she didn't feel the same. Jungkook helped her ease onto the couch, then disappeared into the kitchen without asking. She heard cabinets opening, the clink of glasses. A moment later, he returned with a glass of water. You should take your meds, he said, holding it out. She narrowed her eyes. You are bossy. Someone has to be. The corner of her mouth twitched despite herself. She accepted the glass, swallowing the pills with difficulty. He hovered until she set it down, then sank into the armchair across from her, watching her with those steady grey eyes. The silence stretched heavy with things unsaid. Finally, wine broke in. Don't have to babysit me, you know. Jungkook leaned back, his expression unreadable. I know, but I want to make sure you are okay. Her chest tightened. Why? The question hung between them, raw and jagged. She hadn't meant to sound so vulnerable, but it slipped out anyway. His gaze softened, but he didn't look away, because, despite everything, I still care. I can't turn that off, Wine. Her breath caught. She wanted to scoff, to remind him of their breakup, of all the nights she cried herself to sleep after he walked away, but the sincerity in his eyes stopped her. Instead, she looked down at her hands, twisting the blanket in her lap. Caring didn't keep us together before, she whispered. Jungkook's silence was answer enough. The next few days blurred into a rhythm she hadn't expected. Jungkook stopped by each morning with groceries, insisting she eat something more substantial than toast. He tidied her kitchen, fixed the squeaky hinge on her bedroom door, even refilled the soap dispenser in her bathroom. It was infuriating, it was comforting, it was both, and it left her head spinning. Sometimes they talked about neutral things, like the bakery where Maya worked or the renovations at his firm. Other times, silence stretched between them, not entirely uncomfortable but heavy with all the words they weren't saying. All night, when the apartment grew quiet, Wine lay awake replaying the conversations, the way his hand had brushed hers when he passed her a plate, the way his voice softened when he asked how her health felt. It was too easy to slip back into the rhythm of us. Too easy to forget the cracks that had split them apart, and that terrified her. On the fourth day, Maya showed up unannounced, bursting into the apartment with a bag of pastries and a scarf. Okay, she announced, setting the bag on. We need to talk. Wine raised an eyebrow from the couch. Good morning to you too. Maya ignored her, plopping down on the cafe table directly across from her. So, Jungkook, why is he here every day like you are suddenly staring in some cheesy romance movie? Wine groaned. Maya, no, seriously, you can't just let him walk back into your life like the last year didn't happen. Wine pressed her fingers to her temples. I didn't ask him to, he just shows up. And you let him. Maya countered. Wine opened her mouth, then closed it again. Because Maya wasn't wrong. I don't know what I'm doing, she admitted slowly. Maya's expression softened, though her eyes were still wary. Wine, you have been through a lot. You are vulnerable right now. Don't confuse gratitude with something else. Wine swallowed hard. What if it's not just gratitude? The silence that followed was deafening. That night, Jungkook cooked dinner pasta with too much garlic, just the way she used to like. As they ate, Wine found herself laughing at something he said. The sound startling her as much as it startled him. For a fleeting moment, it felt like nothing had changed. But when she caught his gaze lingering on her across her table, something deep inside her shifted. She realized with a terrifying clarity that the walls she had built around her heart were beginning to crack, and once again, Jungkook was the one standing inside. The first real argument since the hospital came on a Wednesday night. Wine had insisted she could manage the laundry basket herself. She had taken 2 steps before the ache in her ribs doubled her over, the basket clattering to the floor. Jungkook was at her side in an instant, his hand on her arm. See, his voice was sharp with You are not supposed to be lifting anything heavier than a mug. I'm not helpless, Jungkook, she snapped, yanking her arm away. I didn't say you are helpless. I said you are hurt. And I said I can manage. Her voice rose, brittle. God, you always do this. You swoop in and take over like I can't do anything on my own. The words were out before she could stop them, echoing in the small apartment. They both froze because they weren't really arguing about laundry. Jungkook's expression tightened, pain flickering across his features. He stepped back, dragging a hand through his hair. Is that what you think I'm doing? Again? Wine's just heaved. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The room felt too small, too heavy with all the words they had left unsaid. Finally, she whispered, That's why we broke up, isn't it? The silence stretched. Jungkook's shoulders sagged as he exhaled slowly, the fire draining out of him. Yeah, he admitted, I guess it is. They ended up on the couch, the laundry basket forgotten. The weight of their history settled between them like a third presence. Jungkook leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. I was so focused on building a future, he said quietly, on getting the promotions, the projects, the money. I thought I was doing it for us, for you. But somewhere along the way, I stopped actually being with you. Wine's throat tightened. She remembered nights waiting for him to come home, dinners gone cold, the loneliness of lying in bed beside a man whose mind was always somewhere else. I felt invisible, she admitted, her voice raw, like it didn't matter unless I fit into your schedule. His head dropped, shame etched into his posture. I know, and I hate that I made you feel that way, but I didn't know how to stop. I thought if I just work harder, push harder, it would all be worth it. That you would see how much I loved you in the things I was trying to build. Her eyes burned. I didn't want things, Jungkook. I wanted you. The words cracked between them, jagged and unflinching. Jungkook lifted his gaze as for the first time she saw his regret laid bare. I'm sorry, he said simply. I should have been there. I should have chosen you, not the job, not the deadlines. You. Her breath shuddered out. She wanted to scream, to hold on to the wall she had built, but the sincerity in his eyes chipped her at resolve. And you, he said softly. Why didn't you change it? She blinked. Change what? Your emergency contact? His voice was steady, but his hands clenched together. An year, Vine. You had plenty of time. Why me? The question hung heavy in the air. She could have lied, she could have shrugged it off, blamed laziness or oversight, but the truth pressed against her ribs, demanding release. Because, she whispered, her voice breaking, no matter how much I wanted to hate you, I always knew you would show up. His breath caught. Tears welled up in her eyes, spilling before she could stop them. I tried to put other names down, Maya, my mom, anyone else, but every time I went to sign, I hesitated because deep down, I didn't trust anyone the way I trusted you, even after everything, even when I saw I would never forgive you. You were the one person I knew would come if I needed you. Jungkook's jaw tightened, his own eyes glassy. Slowly, carefully, he reached out, covering her trembling hand with his. And I always will, he said hoarsely. No matter what happens between us, I will always come when you need me. The warmth of his hand seeped into hers, grounding her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Finally, Vine whispered, But what about when I don't just need you? What if I still want you? The confession hung between them, terrifying in its honesty. Jungkook's grip tightened just slightly. Then, I will tell you the truth, he said, his voice trembling. I never stopped wanting you, Vine. Not for a single day. Her chest constricted, hope and fear colliding violently inside her. But how do we know it will be different this time? She asked, tears spilling freely now. How do we know we won't just end up right back when we were me feeling invisible, you drowning in work? Jungkook swallowed hard. Because I'm different now. I had to lose you to realize that nothing I built, nothing I achieved meant anything without you in it. I don't care about the next big promotion. I don't care about being in work. I care about showing up. Every day for you. His voice cracked, raw and unguarded. I don't want to be just the name on your emergency contact list. Vine, I want to be your everyday. I want another chance to love you the way you deserve. The room blurred through her tears. She stretched his face, desperate for any hint of falsehood, but found none. Only sincerity, only love. Her heart pounded. She thought of the accident, of the way her world had nearly ended in a single violent moment, of how he had been the one by her side when she opened her eyes. Maybe it wasn't fate. Maybe it was simply true, the kind she had been too afraid to face. Slowly she slid closer until their knees brushed. Jungkook's eyes widened, hope sparking in their depths. "Wine," he whispered. She cupped his face with trembling hands, her voice barely audible. "Then prove it. Stay. Not because you have to, because you choose to." Her breath shuddered out, "Always." And then his lips were on hers, gentle but fierce, with all the words they hadn't spoken. The kiss was different than before, not rushed, not careless. It was reverent, patient, the kind of kiss that spoke of second chances and promises, made silently in the space between heartbeats. When they finally pulled apart, wine rested her forehead against his, her tears mingling with laughter. "I guess I don't need to update my emergency contact after all." Jungkook chuckled, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Not unless you want to add husband someday." Her heart stumbled at the word, instead of a warm glow in her chest. For the first time in a year, the future didn't feel like something to dread. It felt like something they could build together. In the weeks that followed, Jungkook kept showing up, not just in the big ways but the small ones. Morning coffee, late night laughter, quiet evenings curled on the couch. He didn't just promise change, he lived it. And wine, for the first time in a long time, let herself believe. Because sometimes the person you call in an emergency isn't just the one who shows up when you're broken. Sometimes they are the one you realize you still want beside you always.